Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to Answers Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. Well, today I'm going to do a video showing you guys the truth of why rent prices are so expensive. Now, there's a lot of speculation going out here when it comes to the high rent prices. A lot of you automatically assume rent prices are so high and they continue to go up because landlords are greedy. They're heartless. All they want is money. They don't care about nothing but money. They're just greedy. They're just no good. Some of you might go the political route and blame it on politics. But on this video, I am going to show you the truth of why rent prices are high. And because, see, what's going on is, like many people out here, I'm looking for alternative ways to make a living outside of working a 9 to 5. Eventually, I like to leave my 9 to 5 and go back into doing more traveling. However, before I do, I need to have some sources of income lined up to where I can make enough money to take care of my financial obligations and needs and wants before I quit my 9 to 5 and I hit the road and travel again the way I was doing before. So, one stream of income that I thought about doing was becoming a landlord. Now, this is an idea that I've been back and forth on for the last several years. This is an idea that, to be quite frank, it's been an idea that one day I want to do it, the next day I'm nervous as heck and I don't want to do it for various reasons. And then, and right now, a part of me anyways is kind of thinking, well, you know what? Any business endeavor you go into is going to always be an element of risk. And one rule of thumb to have when it comes to starting a business is no rewards. I forgot how they put it. But basically it goes something like this. If you, no risk, no rewards. I forgot how it went, but basically in a nutshell, if you want the reward, then you're going to have to take the calculated risk, something like that. Hopefully you guys know what the heck I'm talking about. So I thought about getting into the landlord business by buying maybe one or two houses to start things out. And I'm going to do a video right here showing, I'm going to go on realtor.com and I'm going to go into maybe one or two cities on realtor.com and show you a couple of properties that, in my opinion, would be ideal for somebody like myself that wanted to go into being a landlord. And then I'm going to break down the cost of maintaining that property. So let's get to that video. Hopefully you guys learned something. And hopefully after this video, hopefully you guys put your emotions aside and you start to exercise a little bit of logic when it comes to looking at some of these rent prices. Now, are rent prices high these days? Heck yeah. But you also got, one thing you got to take into consideration is housing prices have also went up substantially, along with a lot of other stuff, which I'm going to talk about on this video. So let's switch over to my other screen and we'll continue the conversation over there. All right, folks, I am on realtor.com and right now I am in Anderson, Indiana. Now I'm going to give you guys a couple of scenarios here when it comes to becoming a landlord. I'm going to try to be as well-rounded as I can within a reasonable time frame when it comes to being a landlord. And I'm just gonna just give you guys a real life demonstration of what a lot of landlords have to go through on a financial standpoint, which is why rent prices anymore are so much higher than they were even just a few years ago. So, okay, like I told you guys, I'm considering becoming a landlord, buying maybe one or two properties to rent out as part of my income. So, this house is pending. They're asking you, and you know what? We'll just say they're asking $40,000. Now let's pretend I wanted to buy this house to rent out. Now this is the cheapest house. I mean, it's pending, but this is the cheapest house that's for sale. Just for the purpose of conversation, we're going to use this house. So let's click on it. Okay, it might take a second. Okay, they only give us 5 pictures. Okay, here we go. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking. Okay, now this house is located on the west side of Anderson. It's located on West 8th Street. It's in it's on a relatively busy street. For those of you that are familiar with Anderson, Indiana, you know where this house is at. It's located in a relatively busy neighborhood. A lot of traffic, a lot of noise, all that. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad neighborhood, it's just a lot of traffic. It's in an area where some people wouldn't want to live because of the traffic. But this house, $40,000. Let's see what you get for $40,000. Now remember, I'm looking at this house from a investor's point of view. So for that being said, let's take a look. Here's the exterior. Okay, here's the inside of the house. Looks like we're in the kitchen. Looks like the kitchen, which is completely disassembled. The dining room, I guess. Here's more of the house again. If I were to buy this house, I would have to I would have to put in new flooring, and it looks like I would also have to do some drywall work as well, and I would also need to do some work to the kitchen. Okay, I guess this is one of the rooms. Again, I'll have to do work to that wall. I would need to put some new flooring down, and I would also need to do work in the ceiling. Okay, this is the upstairs, and this is what it all looks like. I would need to do work up here as well. And now, for some of you, this may not look like a big deal, but I promise you, the cost to do all this is going to be more than what you think, especially if you have to hire somebody to do it for you. I mean, basically, as you guys can see, this house is a fixer-upper big time. This house is a big time fixer-upper. So without me physically in person looking at this house, just based off of the pics that I showed you guys that we looked at together, I would say on the low end, I would have to invest, I'm gonna say $50,000 into renovations. I say 50 on the low end. It's probably more. But on the low end, we'll just say 50. So let's assume that you know what? They're asking $40,000. Let's assume that I negotiate down to 30,000 bucks. So I buy the house for $30,000, and then I come back and I gotta throw another 50 into doing the renovations. So the real price of this house, by the time everything is said and done, is gonna be around $80,000. Now I'm pretty sure the person that's buying this house, they probably got a whole crew to go in there and do things probably cheaper than the price that I'm quoting. They can probably go in there and get it done cheaper. It may not be correct. It may be half-assed, but it is what it is. You know, LLCs, that's just the type of shit they do. Many of them. But anyways, back to myself. So if I were to buy this house, the real price of this house, I would say would be around 80 grand by the time I get done doing the necessary renovations to make this house rent worthy. But you know what? What if I don't want to do all that repair? Let's see what's out here. Now this house, just the other day, was still available. This house, a couple of days later, is now pending. They're asking $48,000. So let's see what I get for $48,000. Again, well, this house is located on the east side of Anderson. I mean that the neighborhood where this house is at, it's not necessarily the ghetto, but it's not exactly the best side of the city either. And I would say off the top, the caliber of tenant that I would most likely attract for this house. I mean, I could always be wrong, but I would say the type of tenant that I would attract for this house definitely would not be the highest caliber tenant. I mean, this house is one of those type of deals where I I would run a high chance of getting a low quality tenant in here. I'm gonna just say that. So what do I get for $48,000? Let's look at some pics. Okay, well, it's got a one car garage, which will be a selling point for when it comes to renting it out. Okay, well, I step inside the house. I'm going to need to replace a few of those little pieces of glass. That, or I'm going to need to get a whole new door because when I buy this house and I go to insure it, many homeowners insurance companies are not going to allow you to have any piece of board on, like this. No boards. All this either needs to be glass or I'm gonna have to replace the entire door. You walk in, you look at the ceiling, I'm gonna have to do some drywall. So that's gonna cost money. Sure what all this madness is. But I would have to at the minimum paint this room. Get rid of all that writing. I would have to slap on some paint in this room. And probably do some work on the floors too. And it looks like I would have to do some work in the kitchen. I would need it to cover this up right here. I have to do some drywall work in the kitchen, it looked like. Oh yeah, drywall work all day up here. And I don't know what's going on here, but I would have to do some more drywall work right here too. So again, for 48 grand, I would be purchasing still another fixer upper. Let's see what else is out here. You know what? Let's say I don't want to really have go with home renovations. And if I don't want to deal with home renovations, obviously it means I'm going to have to spend more money for my house, for my investment property. So let's see what's out here. You know what? Here's a house on Main Street. Now this is a busy street. And you know what? Let's look for something else. Asking $75,000. This house is located on Walnut Street. Let's check it out. And I want to say Walnut Street here. Let's see here. I forgot exactly where Walnut Street was located. I want to say it's on the west side of the city. Know what? I think this house is on the east side of the city. I think it's east. Let's see here. Yeah, this house is on the east side because it's not far from Ohio Avenue. So this is on the east side. They're asking 75 grand. So what do I get for 75 grand? Let's look at some pictures. Okay, looks like they went through and done some renovations. Now, I'm not saying these renovations have been done correctly because they look good. It looks good, but it doesn't mean it's actually good. But just for argumentative purposes, this house has been renovated. And basically, if I wanted anything that was turnkey, moving ready, I can just do a little bit of cleaning up and rent it out right away. I don't gotta do a bunch of repairs. I would say $70,000 plus is what I would most likely have to pay for an investment property. They're asking 75 on that one. You know what? This one's on Delaware Street. They're asking 70. Let's see what they're talking about here. Let's look at the street view of Delaware. Give me 1 second. Okay, my. Well, the internet that I have over at this house, unfortunately, is not as good as the internet at my old house. See, at my old house, I had the type of internet that was equivalent to fiber. As where I'm at now, since I'm in such a rural community, I'm stuck with satellite, which is not near as good as what I had before. So my internet here is a little slow. It's significantly slower. But this is basically what the area looks like, on Delaware Street in Anderson, Indiana. Now let's go back to the listing. Okay. Yeah, we're on the west. I believe we're on the west side of the city. because it's not far from West 29th, so we're on the west side of the city. Let's see what the inside looks like. Okay, looks like you have I don't know whether they turn it into a clubhouse or if it's still a garage. I have no idea. Let's keep going. Okay, the inside is looking nice. It's in good shape. $70,000, which honestly in this current housing market is the best I would be able to do when it comes to purchasing something that's move-in ready that I can just rent out almost immediately. And as I showed you on the other property that was a fixer upper, by the time I put the necessary amount of money into fixing the other house up, I would have been the real price on the other house would have been around 80 grand. Maybe on the low end it would at least been 70. So it's safe to say that on the low end, I would most likely have to pay at least $70,000 one way or another for each investment property. So let's go back here. And that's in Anderson. Now, for those of you that want to live in the city, let's type up Indianapolis. Already, $85,000 for this little house. 85 grand. And I believe this house is located on the east side of Indianapolis, the worst side of the city you can live. Yeah, it's on the east side of Indianapolis. Let's see what the house looks like. Okay, well, the inside doesn't look too bad. Now, I would say on the inside of the house, just by looking at it, it's going to need a few things done to it, but nothing too bad. At least not from the pictures, but obviously I would have to go there and see it in person to see what's up for real. I would say for this house, if I even if I went in and I purchased the house for, let's say, 75 grand, I negotiated down $10,000, hypothetically speaking, 75 grand for this house. Just by the looks, I would say, and I would say a minimum of $15,000 would need to be put towards this house to bring it up to par to make it rent worthy. So if I were to throw, let's say, 15 grand into that house, I purchased a house for 75. So the real price for this house will be 90 grand. So 90 grand for a house on the east side of Indianapolis. And this is my little example for those of you that want to live in the city. Now let's look at Fort Wayne. Let's look at one more city. We'll look at Fort Wayne. Because Fort Wayne is a little cheaper than Indianapolis. And quite frankly, I like Fort Wayne a lot better than Indianapolis. So let's check out Fort Wayne. It might be a second before more of my pictures pop up. Okay, 70. You know what? Let's see. This is Fort Wayne. Let's see here. Okay, $89,000 for this White House in Fort Wayne. And I'm thinking that this house is going to be on the south side of the city. Let's check. The south, let's see where it's at. Okay, they don't have, okay, I can't tell looking at this map. But I'm going to assume that this is on the south side of the city, this house. Let's check the map. See if they give me a street view. Yeah, I believe this is going to be here. Yeah, I want to say this is going to be the south side of the city. It looks a lot like it. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna guess this is the south side of the city. So this is what the neighborhood looks like. Now let's go back to the house. Here's the house. Now let's see what the inside of the house looks like. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. Motivated seller with a bit of love and TLC. So this house will need a considerable amount of work. That's what all that means. So even at 90 grand, even at 89 grand, I still got to go through and do some work. So let's say I bought this house and I negotiated it down to, see, they're asking 89, so let's say I negotiated it down to, let's say 75. I buy the house at 75, and just off of what they say in the description, under property detail, let's say I threw $20,000 into this house. That would bring the price on this house to be $95,000. So let's say the real price on this house will be around, and well, let's say $100,000. So we're gonna go back to the I'm gonna go back to my normal settings, and we're gonna continue this conversation. And as I continue the conversation on my other screen, I want you to bear in mind these pictures that I've showed you on realtor.com. I want you to just bear all of this in mind. I know this is going to be a long video, but I just wanted to show you some of these pictures just so you guys had a real life idea of what the prices of some of these houses are, which ought to help explain the reason why your rent prices are so high compared to what they used to be. So let me switch over here. All right, folks. Again, I want you to keep the last clip that you guys saw in mind. Now, let's say I decide to purchase a property for $100,000. I would say on the low end, I could probably get away with $70,000. But you know what? I think it would be better if I plan to purchase a property for $100,000. So let's say I purchase a property for $100,000. And for $100,000, the property is turnkey, move-in ready. I don't gotta do shit to it. Or even if I purchase a fixer-upper for cheaper, and then I put the money into bringing the property up to par. Any which way it goes, the real price of that property will be at least $100,000. Now, I'm gonna run you guys through two different scenarios. Scenario A, I buy this $100,000 property cash money, no loans. Scenario B, I purchase the $100,000 property and I take out a mortgage. So, with that being said, let's go. First, we're going to start with scenario A. So I choose to purchase the $100,000 property. And let's say I purchase in a market to where, let's say I purchase in a neighborhood to where I can charge $1,000 a month for rent. Because honestly, if I were to purchase a property, let's say in a city like Fort Wayne or Indianapolis, even in poor neighborhoods, I can most likely charge $1,000 per month for rent. Or if I purchase this property in Anderson, I probably won't get away with $1,000. I probably wouldn't be able to do much better than $8. But depending on where in Anderson that I purchased, I could probably do $1,000 in Anderson a month as well. So let's say I purchased a $100,000 property, and I'm in a market to where I can charge, what is say, $1,000 a month rent. Now, some of you guys are probably thinking $1,000 a month rent. You're probably thinking, man, that's a lot of money. $1,000 extra every month because I own a house. Well, it's not quite that easy. So, out of that $1,000 that I charge my tenant for rent, I don't get to pocket the entire $1,000. I wish the hell I did, but that's not how it works. See, this is how it works in real life. I mean, this is how it works in real life if I were to become a landlord. So I charge $1,000 a month rent. Out of that $1,000, and I'm going to throw some numbers out here that are generic. They're hypothetical numbers, but they're close to accuracy too. So just bear that in mind. So out of that $1,000 a month, my property management company is going to take out 10% for their, for their work. So now I'm down to $900. Out of that leftover $900, well, guess what? Mr. Tax Man is going to get their cut of the money. I mean, the county is not going to allow me to be moving real estate for free. They're going to get their cut. Property taxes, that's called. You own property, you pay property taxes, period, point blank. Now, as a landlord, I'm not going to be able to apply for the homestead because that's not going to be my primary residence. It's going to be an investment property. So I would say, like, if I were to, depending on what side of town I'm located on, my property taxes could go anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per year. Now, let's say my property taxes are $1,500 a year. So $1,500 a year. I mean, no, like let's say, no, what? Just so I don't have to rip out a calculator. Let's say my property taxes are $1,200 a year, which $1,200 would be extremely low. But let's say my property taxes are $1,200 a year. You know what? Well, yeah, $1,200 a year. That's $100 a month. So out of that leftover $900 I got, because remember, $100 is going to pay my property management team or company, whoever I hire. Another $100 is going to go for property taxes. And I would say, in reality, for Indiana, I would say, you know what? I would say for Indiana, I would say my property taxes per month on average will be more like $150 a month. It would be more like $150 a month. So now we're down to $850 out of that $1,000 I'm charging per month for rent. Now I'm down to $850. That is my money at this particular point. Well, as a responsible landlord, I gotta have insurance on my house. Because if I get a tenant that's reckless and they decide to catch my house on fire, I don't want to just sit around and have my investment burnt down to the ground and have no means of recuperating that loss. So, as a responsible landlord slash investor, I'm going to need to have some type of insurance on that property. So, let's say I purchase some insurance for that house, and the cost is, we'll say the cost for insurance is $100. We'll say the cost of insurance is $100. Now I'm pretty sure the insurance will probably be more than $100, but just for argumentative purposes, we'll just say that my insurance for this house will be $100 per month. So out of that $850 that I got left, well, guess what? Now I'm down to $750. Again, as a responsible landlord, I gotta budget for home repairs because things in this house will break down. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when it does break down, it's a matter of what and how much it's going to cost. So again, as a responsible landlord, I need to budget for home repairs. How much do I budget for home repairs? I think a reasonable sum to budget every month is, and we're going to say, I mean, on the low, let's say $100 because this house, reminds you, it's turnkey, it's move-in ready. So, but let's say I budget $100 a month for repairs. I probably should be budgeting $200 a month for repairs, but you know what? Well, let's say I only budget $100 a month for repairs. So now that 750 is down to 650. So what else do I need to budget? So yeah, so I'm down to 650. You know what? I think for home repairs, I would feel a little bit more. I would feel a little more comfortable if I budget $150 a month for repairs, as opposed to only 100. So now I am down to, so out of that $1,000 that I'm getting per month for rent, the actual amount of money that I'm gonna net that will go in my pocket will be $600 a month. So let's recap real quick. So so basically out of that $1,000 a month I'm charging for rent, I'm gonna have $400 per month that I have to set aside for various expenses. I'm setting aside $150 for property taxes, $100 for $100 for I forgot what you call those people, for property management, $150 for property taxes, so, and $150 for home repairs. So yeah, the amount of money that I'm going to be netting is going to be $600 out of that $1,000. So if everything goes perfect, I don't have no evictions. I don't have to worry about doing a bunch of cleaning up and repainting and redoing and repairing a bunch of crap. So, assuming that things go perfectly, or at least next to perfect, if I were, I mean, and let's say things go perfect for, and let's give it 2 years. And and right now I'm probably talking Fantasyland talk. Hate to say it, but I'm probably in Fantasyland right about now. But let's say for 2 years things go perfect. So $600, then multiply it by, let's see, I'm gonna have to rip out my calculator here because I'm not trying to take all day trying to do mental math. Find my calculator, that is. There we go. So $600 times 24, because 24 months in 2 years. So in 2 years, I will have netted $14,400. Well, let's say after 2 years, I don't know, maybe the furnace goes out, or the air conditioner goes out, or the house might have a setup to where it's all electric, so the climate, so the heat and the air is all in one unit, and that whole entire and the unit goes out, and I gotta replace it. Well, if I have to replace, I mean climate control. I mean depending on what the setup is, I would say like if I have to replace, let's say a heat and air climate control combination, that's gonna run me around $10,000. So out of that $14,400 that I netted in profit for those 2 years, I'm gonna lose $10,000 just like that. because I gotta replace that climate control unit. Now let's say only my furnace goes out. Or during the 2 years, let's say my furnace goes out. Okay, for a new furnace, we're talking $5,000. So out of that 14,400, now I'm down to $9,400. Let's say sometime during that 2 year time frame, the air conditioner goes out. Now, depending on what state, now most states don't require you to supply air conditioning. Most states don't. It's just that if you do, it makes it nicer for the tenant, and the likeliness of you getting a better, of you getting a decent tenant will improve. So maybe I shouldn't use air conditioning as an example. But I would say on the low end, if your furnace goes out, that's going to run at least five. That's going to run around $5,000. Now, let's say I purchase a house, and I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of stuff that can break here for a minute. But anyways, for the first 24 months, everything is next to perfect. So I net $14,400. That's $600 a month I'm netting, because the other $400 I gotta pay other bills with that money. So here's another scenario. So everything is perfect for the first 2 years. Well, let's say on the third year, this individual, for whatever reason, decides, you know what? Fuck you. I'm not paying my rent no more. So just out of nowhere, they decide to quit paying their rent. And then after 30 days of them not paying their rent, guess what I do? I serve them eviction papers. So maybe, so I serve these people eviction papers. These people might get very vindictive, and they might just be, and they might be like, well, okay, well, since this motherfucker's gonna evict me, I'm gonna tear his shit up. I'm gonna make his day hell. I'm gonna show him what time it is. You don't play with me. I'm gonna show him what time it is. So this individual will go around and they'll do a bunch of damage to my property, and on top of that, they're not gonna pay my rent. So the profit, the $14,400 profit that I may have gained the first 2 years of me being a landlord on this particular property, well, guess what? I can lose all that money just like that. In fact, rather than netting a profit, I could actually suffer a loss just like that. All I gotta do is have a tenant in there that at any given time they decide they're not gonna pay rent. And then once they decide that they're not gonna pay rent, now I gotta take them through the eviction process, which takes several months. And then I gotta pay some kind of money to have the sheriff come to my property and escort them off the premises when that time comes. And most likely I'm gonna have to pay money to a lawyer, and plus money on top of that money to file a case against my tenant to begin the eviction process. So the money I gained the first 2 years, the $14,400, not only can I lose all of that money, but I could even come out. This property, hypothetically speaking, could turn out to be a loss as opposed to a gain. And those are some of the chances that landlords take when they decide to become a landlord. Now, let's say I purchase $100,000 house, except I don't pay cash. I take out a mortgage. Well, out of that $600 that's left over that I've been pocketing because I purchased this $100,000 property and paid cash. Let's say I purchased a $100,000 property and I took out a loan. Now, assuming that I got stellar credit and I was able to get on with a relatively low interest rate, let's say my payments every month are, I don't know, on $100,000, let's say my monthly payments are $450 a month. That's my monthly payment. Well, rather than pocketing $600, I will be down to only pocketing maybe $100 or $200. Because now I gotta pay the mortgage. So I know this video was super long, but hopefully now you guys understand why your rent prices are so much higher now than they ever were before. Because see, back when investors were able to purchase houses for $20,000, $30,000, and $40,000, and then throw a tenant in there. I mean, back then, okay, they can rent that property out for $600 and maybe $700 a month and still make a half decent profit, as we're now, since houses are so much more money than they were before, as I've illustrated on my on a couple of clips ago. Landlords now have to charge more money, because not only did the price of houses go up, but on top of that, the price of supply, like what the price of parts to make your home repairs went up. Labor costs went up if they had to hire somebody. Property taxes increased. Homeowners insurance also increased. So everything in relation to becoming a landlord has increased for the landlord / investor. So they basically don't have any choice but to pass the expense along to you, the tenant. They have no choice but to do that, because if they don't, then they're not going to make any money. Instead, they're going to lose money. And why in the hell would anybody want to go into the business of being a landlord if they're not going to make any money? That doesn't make any sense. So hopefully you guys put your little emotions aside on why rent prices are so high, and you look at things from a business perspective, and you have some kind of understanding of why rent prices are the way they are. Now, are there greedy people out here? Of course there are. But I would say in many cases your rent prices are the way they are because of everything that I done showed you in this super long video. So that's all I got for this one. If you made it this far, I appreciate you, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Stay blessed.